create summary tasks. So select names of the tasks from task number. So this is what we did. These tasks will be subtask of number 1. So you can see we created subtask, right? Earlier they were like this, and using this schedule, essentially insert task, this task, so you can create a subtask of requirement definition, starting with gathering till requirement specification final. So that's what we did. So going to the next slide number 12, creating summary task. So click on task tab, schedule group. So this is a schedule group you can see at the bottom, and you can see the indent task, right? So this is how you create a summary task. Basically this task becomes a subtask. Creating a hierarchy will help you better organize your task, right? So if I hover over here, it will give me that information, okay? If I hover on this left hand side, this task may become a summary task. So summary task and subtask. So summary, you can indent or outdent the task, and essentially you can create summary task. So let's do it once so that we understand it well. So like this, you can make it indent. So this is summary, and so on, right? So you can see that you can make summary task or subtask using this schedule group. Yeah. Let's go on to create dependencies now. So how do we create dependencies? Essentially in here, select names of the task 2 and 3. Okay. So there is a dependency between, of course, we can understand, right? So between unless until you gather the requirements, the analysis cannot be started. So we are selecting these two tasks, requirement gathering and requirement analysis. Then only we can create a dependency. So what is dependency? So how we go on creating? So on task tab in schedule group, as you can see, link the selected task. So you have a link over here. Yeah, there's the one. So this is a link, and once you click on it, these two gets linked up, and you can see that. So I'm just going back. So before it is like this, okay? So now I select task 2 and task 3, right? Requirement gathering and requirement analysis, and I'm linking them as the, if I hover over there, keep my cursor over there, it says link the selected task. So you can use Control F2 as a shortcut. So you can link the tasks, so one can't start until the other has finished. You can also link task in other ways, such as, right? So once I link, you can see this is the way your Gantt chart is showing right now, that task 3 is dependent on task 2, right? And what kind of relationship they have? Finish to start. So we are going to see the relationships between between the two tasks in a short while, okay? But this relationship is the task 2 finishes, then task 3 can be started. So that is the relationship between these two tasks. So far no questions, so I'm continuing. So once you have linked the task, then I'm on the next slide, slide number 15. I have an important question to ask. So yeah, go ahead, ask, she says, and the project manager in yesterday's slides that we have seen, he asked like, what if there is some dependencies for the team member of requirement analysis? Will MSP be able to operate that? So essentially, how do I create those dependencies? And that's how we have already seen this. So task 2 and 3 are linked with finish to start relationship. Repeat above steps to create dependency among all the relevant tasks. So let's do that. There is another way. You can just put the number of predecessor and these all get linked. So as you can see, in your Gantt chart, essentially all the requirement definition related subtasks, they are dependent on each other. So, and their relationship is finish to start. So the first task finishes, then the second task can be started. So there is no overlap shown in here. Yeah. So I think that's about it for now. We repeated all the steps to create the dependencies among all the relevant tasks. So there are these are the types of dependencies. I am going to take a little bit into theory for you right now. So these are the types of dependencies. You have finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. So as you can see, the finish to start, finish of the predecessor determines the start of successor. So likewise, start to start, start of the predecessor determines the start of successor. And finish to finish, finish of the predecessor determines finish of the successor. And start of predecessor determines the finish of the successor. So I'm going to take you a little bit into theory before we move on from here. Okay. So when you sequence the activities, this theory is from PMBOK guide that we teach to our PMP students. So if you have done it, I think you then already know it. In case you don't know, I'm just going to repeat it. So you have first relationship, finish to start. I think this we already have seen with the example, right? And the finish date of the predecessor task, this we also have seen. So initial, basically in here, the successor depends on successor starts, this depends on finish of the predecessor. In here, predecessor start depends on start of the successor start depends on predecessor's start. So that's what the dependency is. That is a start to start. The example is scrap the flaking paint of the house. Okay. So I can give you one more example. So let's say leveling the concrete, which is successor, cannot begin until pour foundation, which is predecessor, begins. So that is another example, right? So you cannot begin the priming the house unless and until you scrap the flaking paint of the house. So that's what the start to start relationship. Going to the next finish to finish relationship, the finish date of the predecessor task, right, determines the finish date of the successor. So you cannot finish offshore infrastructure setup unless and until you finish on-site KT or knowledge transfer. Another example I can give is a simple example, writing a document. Let's say writing a document is a predecessor task, right, is required to finish before editing the document can finish. So editing document can be here. So writing document and editing document have finish to finish relationship. The last one very rarely used, but it is a possibility. So start to finish. the start date of predecessor task. So basically you cannot finish the setup of automation tools unless and until testing lab start is available. Okay, so that is the dependency. Better example from real life is let's say you have in security guard shift, you have first security guard. His shift is a successor. It cannot finish. So first guard security, his shift cannot finish until the second security guard shift start. So that is the example. So this is a pretty rarely used, whereas finish to start is very commonly used. Yeah. So that's about it. All right. So these are the task dependencies. I'm back to our. So you got the examples also. We have seen. We usually use finish to start. So let's see where in actual project we get these relationships. So this is where you can just double click the successor or predecessor, basically mainly successor, and you can see predecessor for this is requirement gathering. For requirement analysis is requirement gathering, and it has the 4 possibility. Usually we'll use finish to start. So to see how start to start looks, you can select start to start and click OK. This is how it will look like. Yeah. So which is not usually the case, and what we do is finish to start is very commonly used, and we use the lead, lag, those kind of things, which we'll see in a moment. So here, coming back, we already have seen task dependencies, right? And we have created a blank project as Ashutosh was mentioning yesterday, right? So lead task will start earlier, lag task start is delayed. So lead is entered as negative number. Okay, so let's see with example. So let's do that. Let's create a lead in here. Usually we want, I mean, this is complete waterfall model, right? If you see, I'm just pulling it in front of you, you can see that these all tasks are, you know, pretty finely dependent on each other. So unless until the previous task is finished, the requirement gathering is finished, you cannot start requirement analysis. So is the case of, you know, draft, review, and final. So how do we do in this case? How do we go about adding lead and lag? So let's do that. So in here, I will add a lead of 2 days, let's say, so that there is some overlapping, right? Same, I'll do it here. I'm just double clicking on that, and I come here, right? So 1 day lead, for example. And this is the way you can achieve better scheduling, and usually that is the case the way we do it practically also. Yeah, because a lot of things will be clear in the first phase of the requirement gathering itself. So later phases will be, you know, so whatever is gathered so far, you can start working on those requirements, and whatever is getting gathered later on, you can start working on you know, later part of the requirement analysis. So that's the way it is. So as you can see, lead is entered as negative. So we entered exactly lead. Lag is simple. So let's do one example of lag over here. So let's say the final is we show a lag of 1 day. Usually it doesn't make sense, when this kind of relationship is there. So let's say, not very practical, but what we can do is, in here, so as you can see, the lag, lead, everything is shown over here. We just remove the lag. What we can do is, for final and draft and review, we can do the final and review parallelly, let's say. So let's put it start to start. Now, since we have start to start, we can, let's say, this is taking 2 days and this is also taking 2 days, to just make sense out of it. So the final can be delayed because now there is a start, so we put a lag of 1 day. So this is how your Gantt chart will look like now. Yeah. So you can see there is a delay, right, of 1 day, lag of 1 day. Lag is exactly a delay. And you can advance or lead the activities by a day over here, right, by a couple of days over here. So that's about lead lag, putting it practically. This really helps you in case you haven't done it before. Now coming to if I want to the next slide, it says, if I want MSP to schedule my task automatically, will it be possible? So yes, it is very possible, very much possible. Please explain. So this is the way you can go and do the auto schedule. So let's do the way it is suggesting. Select names of the task from 2 to 7 and click on task tab. So this is a task tab, right, or task group. As you in task tab you have, this is a task tab actually, resource report, and then you go to task group. So this is a group and you can click on auto schedule. So let's do that and see what happens. So here, as you can see, schedule for selected task switches to automatic. So this is the way it has been done, that all the tasks have been selected, and these all the 5, which is essentially subtask of requirement definition, which is a requirement definition is summary task of all these 5. So these 5 are selected and you press on auto schedule. So let's do that and see what happens. So I have selected the 5 tasks and pressed on. So this is a task tab. Now this is a task group and this is a manual schedule, right? And this is auto schedule. So now I have done the auto schedule. Something happened you didn't notice because this was not there. So what I am going to do right now, I'm going to do Control Z. So I'm still on manual. Okay. Now I am going to show you what is happening. So actually what happened, all right, it already did everything manually. So all right, so what we are doing is, yeah, we are here. Okay, so this is what we have, right? All the tasks are manually scheduled, and there is definition. I'm just defining it again. Okay. So as you can see, if they are not manually selected, right, I can auto schedule them. So in that case, what is happening is, they are taking appropriate days. This earlier it was 16 days when I switched to auto schedule. They are taking appropriate days exactly. So considering even Saturday, Sunday and all that, right? So working days are already there. So likewise, it is showing 17 days in total, starting with whatever, in our case it is 9/29. So today's date 2014. Yeah, 9 is the month. So once this is done, let's do the next thing. So schedule for selected tasks, which is to automatic. So this is done, and how you can see is this is the way. So task mode, if you click here, there are two ways. So it is switched to auto schedule. So all the tasks are now auto schedule. And how to identify that? This is manually scheduled, right? The symbol of this symbol represent manually schedule, and this is auto schedule. So that is the task mode we get, right? Now moving on to the next slide. Select manually scheduled or auto scheduled from the taskbar. So all the new tasks for there is a taskbar at the bottom. That's what we are going to do. So all the new tasks for the current project will be according to this selection. So let's see what does it mean. So this is the taskbar, okay. Essentially, as it said, this is the status bar, okay, and status bar has this auto schedule length. So this is, from here the default is manually scheduled. So I'm going to select auto schedule. So now if I define let's say design, right, it is by default going to take let's say essentially auto schedule. So automatically schedule the task, as the symbol suggests, it is going to be automatically scheduled. Yeah, so that's what it is. This is manually, so only manually scheduled so far as requirements defined. Yeah, so let's go back to this. We don't need yeah, I have a question from Ashutosh, which I would be taking now. So sure, Ashutosh is asking elaborate the difference between auto schedule and manual again. So that's what I'm going to do again. Fine, Ashutosh, let's do it again. So let's say let's do something, you know, for design. Let's say I have module 1, I have module 2. We'll do the another one which will be better, so that you know you can understand all the processes we have done so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually schedule this. All right. See, I had selected. Now this is the default. I mean, if any project is there, Ashutosh, manually new tasks are always manually scheduled. So you have design of, let's say, module 1. You have design of module 2. Let's say for simplicity's sake, you have only 2 modules. Okay, and now these module belongs to summary design task. So these are subtasks of design. So that's what I'll do, right? So once I have done that, let's say this takes 3 days, this takes 2 days. Okay, now as you can see, there is this tab. If I hover over, right, or select it and drop down, it is manually scheduled. Okay, even let's say select the task, okay, and you can see this becomes selected, manually scheduled. Can you see that? If I select, let's say, requirement specification, this task group is going to auto schedule. Okay. Now, since this is manually scheduled, either I can go here and do it auto scheduled, or I can just select a task. This module 1 I have changed to auto schedule. Okay, so you can see, and let's put a dependency also on for this task as 9, so that module 2 is dependent on module 1, let's say, for our as the assumption. So now you can see there is a dependency, right? So when I auto schedule it, this is the difference you will see. Okay, so before, since we don't have too many, let's add more modules. Module 4, module 5. Let's say this takes 3, 1, 1. Okay, or I'll say this is the final design. Yeah. So you can see, and let's put a dependency. Since one guy is doing that, what is going to happen is there is obvious dependency on the rest of the tasks. So you can see these three are. So I can change these from manually scheduled to auto scheduled. Actually, you can see that the dates, they get defined automatically. So as soon as you say who is the predecessor, the dates are getting assigned. Okay, so let's change something over here. So let's say module 1 is dependent on 7, rather 6. Then this is on 9, this is on 6, let's say, is on 10, 11, is on 10. So just keep an eye on this 6 days duration, so I can schedule it automatically. So this is the way you do it. Your question was, what is the significance basically? So in manual schedule, task dates are not automatically updated. Okay, whereas auto schedule, task dates are calculated by the Microsoft project. So that's what the only difference is. It is not very evident in the example I have done so far. Okay, but it is pretty evident in the example. This example I had taken. So what is happening actually in here is, since it is once it is done automatically, so let's say let's remove the dependencies. So what is happening is 5 days, 7 days, 3, 1, 1. Okay. Now we'll put the predecessor. So let's say this task starts on today, or let's say 29th. Yeah. So predecessor is, for this there is nothing. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. So essentially, this is what auto schedule. Right now, what is happening, I'll tell you. Because of whatever save that has happened, okay. The date calculation, as the name suggests over here, right? Task dates are not automatically updated. Now what is happening is, because we have done it earlier, I think it is taking it from somewhere. Okay, so I'm not able to exactly show you, but if you go back and see, you will see that, you know, this exercise when we did, the duration was showing 16 days. The date was not, you know, properly calculated. Yeah, so that's how it was. So let's say so for now, let's leave at that. You can see, you know, by going back to the, somehow it is not coming. I don't know why. Okay. Essentially, as the names they themselves have said, task dates are not automatically updated. So that's the only difference. Yeah. So let's leave at that for now. So Ashutosh has a question saying change duration of task in manual mode, please. So let's do that. So let's put, okay. Now I got it. All right. Why it is happening. All right. I think now it should happen. All right. Fine. So let's put some figures. 5, 7, 2, 1, for example. Okay. This one is starting, let's say, let's put a dependency over here. So it is depending on the task 6. This is 9, this is 10, this is 11. Okay. So Ashutosh, as you have said, I have changed the duration of task in manual mode. Okay. Now I'm converting this to auto schedule. So can you see the difference? Ashutosh, it was this, due to this summary thing, you know, being selected as auto schedule, it was calculating automatically. But now it is saying 6 days, okay? If I change this to, let's say, let's take final one also, to auto schedule, and we put 1 day, for example, with dependency, let's say 12. Yeah. So right now design is saying 6 days, right? Considering all the dependencies, it doesn't seem correct. So if I say auto schedule, it becomes 16 days. I think this is pretty clear now. Yeah. So the problem was I had selected design as automatically scheduled task. So it was, even though module 1 to module 4 till final, they were manually selected, it was calculating for us. So that's what basically auto schedule and manual schedule. Yeah. Fine, Ashutosh, can we, so let's, all right. Thanks for asking the question. All right, so select manually or auto-selected schedule from the status bar, all the new tasks for the current. So this we have already seen. So let's do it again. So right now, if I do add any task, right? Let's say task 1, task 2, it is going to be automatically manual. So that is what is there on your status bar. If I select it as auto schedule, then onwards all the tasks will be auto scheduled for us. Yeah, so that's what it is. I think it is simple, straightforward, right? So I'm just deleting these unnecessary tasks for now. All right. So after entering the task under the task name heading, manually schedule or auto schedule can be selected for the individual task. This also we have seen, right? You can change this auto schedule to manually schedule and vice versa, right? Manually schedule to auto schedule and so on. This also is a milestone that we have defined. We can change it to auto schedule, right? Depending on the, let's say it also has a dependency 6, right? So it becomes auto schedule and so on. So the dates gets calculated for that, we all know, right? So since this is milestone, it is having 0 days, and if I say it has dependency on 6, this is how it is going to go, right? So let's see where is our milestone. This is where our milestone is. I can essentially define this new milestone as requirements define and delete this one. I'm doing these tasks so that you understand the way the things can be done pretty easily, right, over here. So auto schedule task. So making auto schedule default for all the new tasks of all new projects. So how we do it. So for the current project we have done, but if I create all the new projects, so this is how you can navigate to backstage by clicking file tab, then click on options in there, and then click on schedule in that, right? And there you have this scheduling option for this all new projects. You have auto schedule task. So new task created either manually or auto schedule. So you can select the two. Yeah. So let's see that quickly. So clicking on file takes me to backstage, right? From there I need to go to options. So from option you go to schedule, right? So new task created, either they can be manually scheduled or auto scheduled, right? So you can select one, and I'll keep it a manually scheduled in case, but you can essentially new task created. This is where you can say either manually scheduled or auto scheduled. And when you press OK, any new project that you are going to create will have, right, manually select. Yeah. So checking project statistics, how we do that? Click on project tab, then properties group and project information. So let's do that. Yesterday we have seen this. So we click on project tab, and in here we come to project information, right? Project tab, properties group. So this is properties group, right? In there you go to project information, right? So right now this is the way it is looking like, right? I'm showing you the slide again. Going back to the tool, you can click on statistics, which will show me this. So let's click on statistics. So it shows me the current start date, what is the likely finish date, right? Which has been calculated for us. Duration 33 days. So this is what it calculates for you. So you don't have to do this calculation. So that's the advantage that you get. So this is what getting to the statistics of checking project statistics, right? So you can check project finish date, right? In here, check the current duration, 17 days, actual duration, and so on. We'll see the rest of the work hours and cost and all, appropriately. The percent complete, variance, etc. We'll see appropriately in subsequent slides. So we are on the same page. So please explain. She's saying, how do you go for notes? So adding notes to task is as simple as this. So essentially you go to task tab. In there you go to properties group. In there you have notes option. You can see this is being essentially enlarged over here, the same one. Yeah. So this is the easiest thing. This is the way you can do it, and this is the example it is given over here. Adding notes to tasks. So select the task where any specific information needs to be entered. So let's do it in actual tool. So let's say we have requirement gathering. We want to add any notes to this. We are on project tab right now. So let's switch to task tab. From task tab, you can see the properties group in task tab, and here is our note. So you can click on it and you go to the notes. So let's say how I'm going to do the requirement gathering is methods used are brainstorming and interview. I say okay. So if you hover on this information, so you can see the notes getting added over here. So if I hover on that cell, then it shows methods used are brainstorming and interview. You can see that. Yeah. So same thing is explained over here. So use questionnaire templates from previous project to gather requirements, for example, right? And after clicking OK, we got the notes. So this is the way we got it, right? And if I hover on this cell, then I'm getting this information, whatever we have entered in our notes, right? So that comes under information column. So it populates icon in the indicator field. So this is the indicator field. Icon is populated, and upon hovering the cursor on notes icon, the note appears in screen tip. So this is what we saw already. So moving on to the slide number 33, next slide, adding hyperlink to task. So this is how it is done. Essentially, requirement analysis, right click on the task to which hyperlink is to be added, click hyperlink from the shortcut menu, right? And essentially the insert hyperlink dialog box appears. So this is what appears in the text to display box. type learning resources, right? And in the address box type www.edureka.co. This was done earlier when it was .n. You can type .co, and that's about it. Then once that is done, that hyperlink will appear in indicator box, right? And indicator column for the task, and when you click the hyperlink, the web page is open. So let's do it. So we are on requirement analysis, right? In here I do right click, go to hyperlink. So in text to display I write, as this was saying, essentially learning resources. Learning resources, and in address bar you type www.edureka.co. Okay, so this is the way it appears. So once this is done, so if I click on this, so you can see that it will open the Edureka site. Yeah. So this is the way it does open the edureka.co website. Yeah. Actually it is redirected to the same stuff. Okay. So coming back, I have the task constraints. This is slide number 36. It says a task constraint determines the flexibility available in scheduling task. So constraints can be flexible, inflexible, or semi-flexible. Okay. In here, you have to select the task. On the task tab in the properties group, click on information. So that's how you can go to essentially constraint type. So constraint in here, if you drop down, you get various options. You have to go to advanced tab. So let's do that parallelly so that you will be. So let's go to requirement specification draft. Okay, let's say, and we go to properties, information, and from there we go to advanced tab. So you have the name of the task, the requirement specification draft, right? And the constraint type is as soon as possible, finish no earlier than, finish no later than, etc. Yeah. So we'll keep the default one, which is as soon as possible. So the constraints are flexible, as soon as possible, as late as possible. So these are like flexible constraint. You know that as soon as possible is as soon as possible. It is definitely flexible, and that's what it means. And same thing appears to your as late as possible. Semi-flexible is start no earlier than, start no later than, finish no earlier than. So you have some date assigned, but there is some buffer before you do that, right? So these are the semi-flexible one, and the last two are inflexible. So they are must start on, must finish on. So these two are inflexible. So these are the categories of the constraint of the task. So as soon as possible is the constraint type selected over here, and constraint date can be selected only for auto scheduled tasks. Please note. Okay. So this cannot be done for the tasks which are not auto scheduled. So the constraint date can be put. Since all of the dates so far we have, they are auto scheduled, we can put the constraint date, yeah, like this. So let's do that. So we can put the constraint date because these are the auto scheduled tasks, right? So let's say as soon as possible. So we are saying 29. You can say 28 also and can put it. So you can see that constraint is appearing over there. This task has a start no earlier than. So this is for everyone's information, whoever is seeing your project management plan. So now if I want to set a latest time or a date by which the task should be completed, and I want it to be a reminder for team members. There is a question from Ashutosh. He says, what could be the significance of constraint date? Sure, Ashutosh, let's take that. I think constraint date is something like, let's say there is a dependency which is, for example, is visible to you, but is not visible to, let's say, team member. So, for example, I have a constraint that particular deliverable should be available. So there could be project constraints, there could be dependency constraints, there could be multiple types of constraints that we can have. So one of the constraint that comes to my mind is, let's say customer want some particular deliverable, let's say the requirement document by so and so date. So let's say I take example of requirements defined, right? Now this requirement defined has a constraint. So let's say I go to advanced tab and constraint type, instead of as soon as, basically must finish on is what I'll be looking for, right? So in this case the constraint date could be, let's say since requirement defined, let's say we have a constraint date of October. In total, how many days we are taking? 17 days, right? So constraint type of, let's say October 31st. So this is a constraint by the customer. So essentially will be set on the requirement defined. Continue. Okay, so let's take a simple one for our example, and must finish on so let's take a let's see. You can even double click also. So 2110 is let's say must finish on 2110. So no constraint will be set on you set a must finish on constraint on the task specification. This could result in scheduling conflict either now or later because this task has at least one other task linked to it. So this is the way you are setting the constraint. This task has must finish on constraint on Tuesday because so this is the significance of the constraint, Ashutosh. I believe this is one example I can give. Other example could be let's say you have some dependency on other project. So rather other project have dependency on you and they need to start, they have a constraint to finish it, within their timelines, and for that they may give you constraint which since it is external project which will you'll not have the predecessor of that, right? So in that case you can put a manual constraint saying this task has to be finished by so and so. If I want to set a latest time or date by which the task should be completed and I want it to be a reminder for team members, then what can be done with MSP, Microsoft project? So in this case you can add a deadline date for a task. So essentially the question was you want to set a latest time or date by which task should be completed. So essentially it was talking about deadline. So you can add a deadline to a date. So how do you do that? Adding deadline basically. So on entering a deadline date, deadline indicator is shown on Gantt chart, and select the task on task tab in the properties, click on information. So let's do that. We'll set a deadline. So let's set a deadline on the review, for example, right? We are in task tab, in properties group, information, and this can be reached even by just double clicking on it. Okay, then go to, so we have come here, now go to advanced tab and you have a deadline over there. So we are going to advanced tab and we have deadline over here. So let's, it is 28th, so we'll put 2110 as 1021 as deadline. So once you select the deadlines, it is appearing as this mark over here. So if a task is scheduled to finish later than its deadline, a red icon appears in the indicators column, and warning message is displayed that this task goes past its deadline. So we'll have to set a deadline, let's say so this is the way essentially, if I'm, this is not a very correct representation, but in to explain how it is for us. So this task goes past its deadline on, so that information comes out essentially in this indicator box, indicator column. Yeah. So this takes me to the next. Yeah, I mean that's all I can take in here. Going to the next slide. Recurring task. On the task tab in the insert group below the task button. So you are here, right? In insert group below the task button, right? Select the recurring task. So that's what you have to do. So in task name type team meeting. So here actually you are defining a new task which is a recurring task okay, which is essentially a team meeting which is appearing every 1 week, duration of couple of hours, and it's a weekly, so it's a scheduling thing which gets added to your Microsoft project. So let's do that. So in here, in the so we are going back in task tab, insert group. So we are in task tab. This is the insert group, right? So you come here and add the recurring task. So recurring task name is team meeting. Duration is 2 hours. It is weekly. It recurs 1 week, right? And you have it starts on 28/9 and end by let's say Wednesday 12/11, 11/12. I mean 12th of November, yeah, 2014. We have to select one of the day, which I think I missed. So you can do that. So you can see that the team meeting gets added, appropriately. It gets scheduled. So 7 meetings get scheduled automatically using recurring task. Another thing is recurring task icon appears in the indicator column. So let's see the recurring task. Yes. So we have a recurring task item. I can this is a recurring task symbol between 9:28 to 11:12. Yeah. So that's about it. I guess there is a question from Ashutosh. That's what I'm going to take now. So his question is, recurring tasks can be added only in the beginning. Let's try to do that. Let's say, I believe the way it has been taken is, based on the date we have selected, but let's do it, selecting here, and we'll select some date in, some other recurring task we'll try to select, okay? So let's do that. So we'll say team lunch. So this is a monthly event, okay? And it starts range of recur starts on let's say in the month of October. Somewhere, and let's say days 20 of every month, or I'll say 4th Friday of every 1 month, okay, something of that sort. And end by, let's say 12/11, that is fine. So we may get only one. So you can see that it gets added, accordingly. Yeah. Since I didn't select duration was 1 day, which is, so let's select duration as 2 hours. Yeah. So So this is about adding a recurring task.